UPA abandoned reforms in 2004 and UPA undermined the macroeconomic foundations. The banking crisis, infamous legacy of the UPA, the NPAs rose during the UPA government. In fact, Nirmala Sitharaman also went on to say that UPA's over-dependence on external borrowings brought economy on its knees. Let me very quickly go across to my colleague Maria Shakil, who is joining us at this moment. NDTV, remember, has accessed the white paper of the government, which has been presented today. Maria, at least more than the rhetoric, the conversation surrounding on facts, the government putting out their side of the facts of how the Modi government has done much better than the UPA, and then, of course, the opposition also reacting with certain facts in their black paper as well.
Yes, that's right. So the government says that there was economic mismanagement, financial indiscipline when they inherited the economy in 2014. They also say that, the reason why they waited for a white paper to come out after 10 years because they really do not want to impact the investor sentiment. They wanted to ensure that there was no negative narrative in the context of India. They could have brought out a white paper in 2014 itself when the Modi government came to power. But they chose to turn around the economy, make it a story of then versus now, and that is the reason why they waited for 10 years. This white paper elaborates about various instances, be it an RBI report, courts of various government committees which was set up at that time, the statements of finance ministers, the statement of the RBI, financial institutions to back its argument of how things have changed and what really happened in that period when there was policy paralysis. They have clearly talked about how there was misuse of funds and also in several instances funds being completely unutilized, particularly to do with social sectors. So I think overall it's a scathing criticism of what was happening, particularly that tenure of Dr. Manmohan Singh. And the irony, one would say also, is Ankit, that it's coming out on a day that the Parliament has, given a farewell to economist Prime Minister in Dr. Manmohan Singh as his tenure in the Rajya Sabha came to an end. But overall, we are yet to hear a sharp reaction or a reaction come in from the Congress as to how they will defend it. They have gone on to say here, particularly with regards to inflation criticism that this government faces, that inflation numbers were in double digit throughout the 10 years, particularly it peaked in 2009-10, and at that time it was the government which went on to defend its own numbers. So now perhaps the UPA ministers, corporate affairs minister or even the finance minister will have to explain as to what their understanding of this white paper is.
That's right, what they're understanding. Thank you, Maria, for joining us at this moment. We also, in fact, know that today Mallikarjun Kharge, the Congress president, presented a 54-page black paper against the government, in fact, and said that this is to tell the public about the failures of the government. They spoke about the comparison between the rising prices of cylinder of fuel at this moment and also gave statistics of unemployment. So let me now at this moment just open this discussion up, get Dr. S.P. Sharma, Chief Economist, PhD, who is joining us at this moment. We also have Nasir Salim, Managing Partner, Flexi Capital, former Cluster Head, Investment, Citibank. Gentlemen, thank you for giving us your time here on NDTV. Dr. Sharma, I want to start with you first. Facts are being spoken. The whole idea is to try and tell the people of how this government is doing much better than what it inherited in 2014. What do you make of this white paper which has been presented by the government, sir?
Yes, definitely, because performance during the last 10 years is very, very promising and visible at the ground, as we are now the growth leader in the global economy. We are the fastest moving economy among the major economies, and we have addressed the G20 issues and G20 conference also, and we are growth leader in the G20 countries also. We are not only growing in the GDP numbers, but our per capita income is also increasing in a sustainable manner. So this last 10 years performance is definitely, I would say, is best in the last many decades, because India has gained a great momentum in the global economy, and we are very, very lucrative in the global charts, and we have attracted chunks of FDI, and we have achieved the trajectory of high exports of $770 billion in the last financial year. That is the highest number during the last many decades, during the last 75 years. So I would say the performance of the government is tremendous and appreciable, as we are going to become a second largest economy in the Asian region by 2030, and the third largest economy in the world economic system with the size of $7 trillion by 2030. The size of the economy, we have already attained $4 trillion in the next financial year. We will be the 4 trillion and 5 trillion in 26-27. So all the macroeconomic numbers and the growth parameters and investment indicators are very, very promising at this juncture.
Mr. Salim, is it to say that the government in comparison may have done well, but does that mean that the economy is as sound as the government claims to be? There are zero problems, no problem as far as the rising price of fuel or LPG cylinder is concerned?
Good evening, Ankit, and thank you for joining, for making me join NDTV. I think on your network, I think there are 2-3 key points that you've raised, Ankit. If you compare the last 10 years vis-a-vis the UPA government performance, I think, without looking at the political prism or the political lens of it, I think both governments have done enough to create the momentum. If you look at the regime between 2004 and 2014, there were a lot of geopolitical tensions. There was a financial crisis which happened in 2008, which unfolded. I think both the finance minister then and the RBI governor then did a lot of heavyweight lifting, which also we saw during this term between 2014 and 2024. RBI has done a phenomenal job in terms of heavyweight lifting, ensuring that the pandemic-induced economic crisis that happened because of COVID, a lot of money was given out. There was enough support given. So, without a political angle to say, Ankit, I think both governments have done enough to create a momentum. Yes, there has been some inflationary pressure, which has been created over the last few years. I think that's also because, one of the main barometers is crude and oil. And that is something which I think the government of the day is trying to address by, talking about reducing the dependency on oil. Barring that, as far as inflationary trend is concerned, this is something which can't be avoided. A lot of inflation today gets imported into our country, and we need to be cognizant of that. We are net importers of many items. I think there is talk about, talking of making those products as far as India is concerned. Now we're talking about that. So I think both governments in isolation have created the momentum. I think the NDA inherited a good legacy from the UPA. There were concerns and worries between 2017-18 and how they would be able to continue the momentum. But the force multiplier and the dividend in terms of India gives the government of the day the vast number of consumers, the tremendous demographic dividend, high number of younger population in India consuming, there's aspiration in India growing. I think all these factors need to be factored in when you compare.
Mr. Sharma, looking at Dr. Sharma, the fundamentals of this economy, India is going from strength to strength. Does this also, in a way, of course, the comparison, the white paper, of course, would be a lot of politics around because the 2024 elections are just around the corner. Both will try and score some brownie points over each other. But largely, as somebody who looks at the economy, how do you see the next few years as far as the Indian economy is concerned, no matter which government is in power?
Yes, we are entering in an golden era once again, and as our growth will be very, very promising. And as IMF has projected that India will grow in higher trajectory and will remain the resilient economy and growth leader among the major economies. So growth prospects are very, very promising, and we are undertaking a lot of reforms, and government is providing a lot of ease of doing business. So the next 5-6 years, according to the international numbers by the international organizations, are very promising, and we look forward that we will remain in the higher trajectory, and we are able to address so many socio-economic issues, like we have pulled many millions of people out of poverty during the last 10 years, and there is a significant improvement in the poverty, and the per capita income is also increasing significantly. So I should say that macro economy is very balanced at this juncture. Though there were inflationary pressures, but calibrated steps by RBI and government, they have addressed all the issues, and going forward, inflationary conditions are also seen in the benign trajectory, and there will be a good momentum in the economy going forward.
Nasir Salim, what do you make of the criticism that the current government has unleashed on the previous 10 years of the UPA government, particularly regarding the banking sector, that it was due to the policy paralysis and corruption, that there was a complete collapse as far as the banking sector is concerned? How far have we come from there, and what would be the areas of concern going forward?
Ankit, clearly, I think being a former banker as well, what I can tell you is that we saw a phase of not much of credit offtake happening. Now, to the effect that credit offtake is starting to pick up, there is more loans being dispersed. Obviously, there is no doubt that the IBC, Insolvency Bankruptcy Code, that was brought in, along with certain other allied, sectors, for example, RERA, came in and ensured that the bank loans become a little more robust. They become more securitized by the regulators. So banking, of course, feeds it into a lot of other sectors because it's a funding agency, it's a funding unit, and it goes into other multiple sectors as far as we know, and we all know. So I think collectively, yes, the IBC, for example, changes on real estate, RERA, and this entire financialization of savings, Ankit. We keep talking about it. Today, there is a lot more people aspirationally using the banking channel because they wish to open accounts. There have been accounts been opened, but I can't say particularly that this was only in the last few years. It's a cycle, and that cycle has been passed on from one government to the other. And I think the one of the most important points, I think banking today seems to be far more stable in terms of, if you look at some of the larger private sector banks in India, even public sector banks, I think the NPAs numbers are looking far, far better. In terms of gross NPAs have come down. We as experts are suggesting that financial services and banks are a great sector to be looked at and considered for investments as well. And I think also because there is a lot of stress test, which today a lot of banks have passed beautifully. Which also augurs very well from the banking perspective that they're far more stable. I think clearly banks are poised to take the challenge of the next growth, which is a welcome step.
Right. As you said, it takes successive governments for any country to, in fact, reach a certain level. Of course, there will be some speed. That speed of the growth may differ from decade to decade, government to government. But as they say, Rome wasn't built in one day, and so is in the economy of India. Thank you so much to both my guests. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us and sharing your views on this very important topic. As I said, the government came up with a white paper. The main opposition, Congress party, brought out a black paper to counter Narendra Modi government's white paper on his performance over the past 10 years. Congress Chief Mallikarjun Kharge released a black paper this morning and targeted the centre. He, in fact, went on and said that the government will never say how many people got jobs. They are releasing Manrega funds. They are discriminating against the states, and this is an area of concern.
हम एक आज ब्लैक पेपर अगेंस्ट द गवर्नमेंट निकाल रहे हैं, क्योंकि वो हमेशा अपनी बात को पार्लियामेंट में जब रखते हैं तो बार बार अपनी कामयाबों को सुनाते हैं और उनके फेल्यूअर्स को छुपाते हैं।
आज देश पिछले 10 साल में समृद्धि के नए नए शिखर सर कर रहा है। एक भव्य दिव्य वातावरण बना है, उसको नजर न लग जाए, इसलिए काला टीका करने का एक प्रयास हुआ है। मैं उसके लिए भी खड़गे जी का बहुत धन्यवाद करता हूं, ताकि इस हमारी प्रगति की यात्रा को कोई नजर न लग जाए। ये नजर न लग जाए इसलिए आपने आज जो काला टीका किया है, मैं तो सोच रहा था सब काले कपड़ों में आएंगे, लेकिन शायद काला जोजू खिंचते 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 ब्लैक पेपर तक चला गया है, लेकिन फिर भी मैं उसका भी स्वागत करता हूं।
भाई ऐसा है, प्रधानमंत्री तो हमारे बहुत सटीक व्यंग्य भी करते हैं, तो उनके हम ब्लैक पेपर को उसी रूप में लेते हैं, लेकिन हमारा मानना है उनका ब्लैक डीड इतना है कि उसको छुपाने के लिए ब्लैक पेपर भी लाए हैं, लेकिन जनता न सुनने वाली है न इनको कोई भाव देने वाली है।
Sunil Prabhu, my colleague, is joining us with more details on this. Sunil, you heard Ravi Shankar Prasad saying जनता इन्हें सुनने वाली नहीं है, ना इन्हें कोई भाव देने वाला है. Is that the confidence that the BJP has that so far, despite some real issues which are troubling the common man, the opposition and particularly the Congress party has not effectively been able to take that message to the people?
Very difficult given the present circumstances to take that message, because as you're aware, what is the media, what is the way to translate that? They're trying their very best. Some are marching from from east to west. Some continue, as you saw Mr. Karge release this paper to give their point of view. It's the good thing actually is that it's now the politics of the economy. The fact that the finance minister has laid a table on the white paper on the economy for people to really discuss, and ultimately people are the biggest judges on this. Whether the previous, we're talking about a 20-year period, what they inherited, what they got, and what has happened, and what is the present situation. So each one can blame each other. The ultimate is, as you rightly pointed out, the people who have to take a call. What are the issues that are facing them? Is it unemployment? Is it, rising prices? Or is it just that the stock market and mutual funds are doing well, and that, certain sections of the top class of the society are doing well, and that's good enough? So this is a debatable point. This is an issue which ultimately the people will answer in the 2024 elections. But at least for once, we are having some sense of a discussion on the politics of the economy, which has been rare in Indian politics for many, many decades.